Welcome everyone. Welcome everyone. Welcome everyone to another Ref Brandon and the Todd family YouTube video. I'll tell you coming up here in just a minute or so what tonight's video is going to be about. But first I wanted to say that I know yesterday we talked about night 2 of WrestleMania, but on Monday I actually talked about night 1 of WrestleMania, but for some reason that video just has not posted yet. Hopefully it will post later on. If it doesn't, I apologize, but feel free to go ahead and leave me your comments if you have watched night 1 of WrestleMania. I won't go through it again, but again, I did do a video on Monday. I posted it before I left for work, and for whatever reason, my computer just has not loaded it yet. Normally it loads a video in 2 or 3 hours, and it just has not loaded that video. But the biggest shock for me on night 1 was Bobby Lashley retaining the title. I thought for sure Drew McIntyre was going to get it, but again, feel free to leave me your comments. And I'm doing this video live tonight. If you watch it later, it's not a big deal. I'm just doing it live because for some reason, not only did Monday's video not post, but yesterday I had kind of spotty, scratchy signal throughout the whole video. And then when I got done, I went back and watched it, and it was terrible. Had I posted that video, I would have redone it, but it was live and it was already posted, so I just had to let it go. But my signal just was not very good. And today here at the house, we've had kind of spotty service all day long. And I didn't want to do this video and then get done and go back and watch it before I post it and realize that the service just wasn't good. So we're going to do this live. Like I said, if you don't see it live, you can go back and watch it later. Not a big deal. But if any time during this video, if you are watching, if the service gets kind of spotty and you can't hear me, or I'm buffering or I'm echoing, just let me know and I'll try to start over again so that everything comes out clear. And like I said yesterday, I've had 4 requests to do top 10s. Now, you know, my top 10 doesn't always have to be about sports. When we first started the channel, I did top 10 candy bars, and that was based on worldwide sales that I found on a website. That was not my opinion. Those were sales listed on a website. And then we did top 10 TV comedies. That was my opinion. So not everything has to be sports related. And that's why I started the top 10, so that people know that I don't mind going off the cusp and talking about something that's not always about sports. But I've had 4 requests to do different top 10s. 3 of them I'm going to do. 1 of them I'm not going to do. And 1 of them I'm going to do right now. Before we get into what this video is going to be about, please make sure you like, comment, share, and subscribe. And please help us continue to grow the channel. We really enjoy doing it. It's free for you, doesn't cost anything, and helps us out tremendously. But I've had 4 requests for top 10s. So that gives me 1 top 10 per week for the next 3 weeks, because I only try to do 1 per week. And before I tell you what tonight's is going to be about, I'm going to tell you the one that I'm not going to do, because I did it yesterday, but since yesterday's video was kind of choppy, maybe not everybody heard it. But I had a request from a friend of mine named Mark to do top 10 independent wrestlers. And I told him I would do it, and it was my intention to do it. And then as I thought about it, I thought I better not, because I know a lot of independent guys personally. And if you have a top 10 list, you can only have 10. And I don't want somebody to be left off and think I have something against them or don't like their wrestling skills because I didn't include them. But when you only have top 10, and you can't just do top 10 independent wrestlers here in Georgia, you've got to do a top 10 all around the world. Hey, Randy, thanks for tuning in, man. We're about to get to what today's video is going to be about. I'm explaining how come I'm not going to do the top 10 independent wrestlers. And it's just because I love everybody and I love all the indie guys. I'm in the independent circuit myself as a referee, and I don't want anybody to be offended or get upset because I didn't include them. But when you only have 10 guys and it's independent all around the world, not just here locally, some people are going to get left off. So against my judgment, I'm going to not do that video and leave it off the list. but I've had a request to do top 10 all-time babyface wrestlers and top 10 all-time heel wrestlers. And I'm going to do those. It'll be top 10 babyface 1 week, top 10 heel 1 week. I was going to do one of those tonight, but then I thought, you know what? Monday was WrestleMania night 1. Tuesday was WrestleMania night 2. I agree, Randy. Independent wrestling is the best. But I decided, since we had WrestleMania on Monday and Tuesday, that I didn't want it to be wrestling Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. So I'll get into those top 10 lists, hopefully starting next week, unless somebody else comes along with a top 10 suggestion, because I can always talk wrestling anytime, night or day. But I didn't want the channel to be wrestling every day this week. So I decided to put those off for another week. Tonight, we're going to talk about top 10 all-time baseball players. And I'm probably going to rattle some feathers here when I get to my top 10. You'll find out here shortly why I'm probably going to rattle some feathers, because my opinion is probably different than most people's when it comes to Major League Baseball. But you won't see any current players on the list, because to me, if you're still playing, you can't be one of the greatest of all time because you're still playing. But now there are a few guys like Mike Trout of the Angels and Mookie Betts of the Dodgers and Freddie Freeman of the Braves, that if they continue to play the way they're playing right now, you'll find out shortly, Randy, where I got Babe Ruth at. If they continue playing like they're playing right now, they may eventually be in the top 10, but you can't still be playing and be a top 10 all-time player. You just can't. Those are the only few players, in my opinion, that may eventually one day be top 10. Because when I think of a Major League Baseball player as a top 10 all-time player, I think of somebody who can hit, steal bases, play good defense. And nowadays, Major League Baseball, it's pretty much home run or nothing. And hitting home runs does not make you a Hall of Famer. So Bryce Harper, in my opinion, is nowhere near being a Hall of Famer. I said the other day in my Braves review that Bryce Harper played for the Nationals for 7 or 8 years, and they never won one playoff series. And in the year they let Bryce Harper go, the next year the Nationals win the World Series. So that tells you all you got to know about my opinion of Bryce Harper. Somebody that hits 265 with 25 home runs a year is not a Hall of Fame baseball player. Bryce Harper only cares about one person, and that's Bryce Harper. But I'm going to give you my top 10. I'm not going to give you every person's every single stat, just basically the stats that people look at when they look at, a player's career stats. And then I'll maybe name a few guys that barely missed the list. But when you only got top 10, you can only have 10 guys in the category. Number 10 on my list is Roberto Clemente. He had a career average of .317 with 240 home runs and exactly 3,000 hits. And now they have the Roberto Clemente Award, which tells you all you need to know about Roberto Clemente. Go back on YouTube and watch some of his career highlights. He was an amazing, amazing baseball player. Number 9 on my list is a guy that had a career batting average of .293 with 149 home runs and 3,023 career hits. And that was Lou Brock, another phenomenal baseball player. Number 8 on my list was a guy that had a .340 career batting average, which is amazing. 493 home runs and 2,721 hits. And that was Lou Gehrig. Now, of course, Lou Gehrig later became better known as the guy who made famous the disease that's actually called ALS. But since Lou Gehrig was the first big-time famous person that got the disease is better known as the Lou Gehrig disease, but it's actually called ALS. He found out himself that he had that. Well, he didn't find out himself, but he was practicing to play one day and realized he just could not hold a bat anymore. And then he went to the doctor and they told him he had ALS. And ever since then, that disease has been called the Lou Gehrig disease. Number 6 on my list is, I'm number 7. I skipped number 7. Number 7 on my list is Stan Musial, another phenomenal baseball player. He had a career batting average of .331 with 475 home runs and 3,630 hits. Number 6 on my list is a guy that all the Braves players are going to know and all the Braves fans are going to know, and that's Hank Aaron. He had a career batting average of 305 with 755 home runs and 3,771 hits. Another great baseball player. If you like this video so far, please feel free to like, comment, share, and subscribe. And before I get into the top 5, we'll rewind real quick. Numbers 10 through 6. 10 was Roberto Clemente. Number 9 was Lou Brock. Number 8 was Lou Gehrig. Number 7 was Stan Musial. And number 6 was Hank Aaron. Number 5 on my list is the Say Hey Kid, a guy that had a career batting average of 302 with 660 home runs and 3,283 hits, and that is Willie Mays. Number 4 on my list is the guy that Randy mentioned a few minutes ago, and that's Babe Ruth. Now, if you look at Babe Ruth's career numbers, he was a .342 career hitter with 714 home runs and 2,873 hits. But if you follow baseball, you know that Babe Ruth actually started out as a pitcher, and then he became a pitcher who also hit, and then he eventually just morphed into a full-time hitter. So he may have had even better numbers if he could have focused his whole career on just batting and playing outfield and not having to worry about pitching. Number 3 on my list is a guy that most people aren't going to like, but it's because of off-the-field issues. But if you follow me at all, you know I don't get into off-the-field stuff. I focus on what happens on the field. And if you follow baseball, you cannot say this guy is not a great baseball player, and that is Pete Rose. Had a career batting average of 303, only had 160 home runs, and he had 4,256 hits. He is Major League Baseball's all-time hits leader, and that's a record that will never be beat. And like I said, he only had 160 career home runs, and that goes back to what I was saying earlier about the way the game has changed. Back in those days, you could hit 300, and you might only have 10 home runs. Like you go back and look at Tony Gwynn, who had a long career for the Padres. He was a great baseball player, and he hit 300 every single year, but he hardly ever had more than 15 home runs in a season. Sometimes he would only have 7 or 8. He was just not a power hitter. But nowadays, guys hit 250, but they got 45 home runs because baseball's turned into a home run game. It didn't used to be that way. I used to watch games growing up, and the team would win 5-4, and they would have 12 hits, and it'd be 9 singles and 3 doubles. Now a team will have 4 hits, and it's 4 home runs. There's just no singles and doubles and triples in baseball hardly anymore, with a few exceptions. That just goes to show how much the game has changed over the years. Number 2 on my list is another guy that's going to ruffle a lot of feathers. Me and a buddy of mine at work named Jonathan was talking about this the other day because he feels the same way that I feel about this guy. He's another guy that's going to ruffle some feathers, but it's mainly due to the off-the-field stuff. But if you follow baseball and you don't think this guy's a great baseball player, you don't know baseball. You have to put aside all the off-the-field stuff and just watch what happens on the field, and he's a great baseball player. Career batting average of .298, 2,933 career hits, and I put one extra stat on this just to show you what I'm talking about. He had 514 career stolen bases, and he is Major League Baseball's all-time home run leader, and that's Barry Bonds with 762 career home runs. Now, I know a lot of people don't like him because of the off-the-field stuff. My stepdad always said he's a hot dog, which just means he's arrogant. He never did come across as arrogant to me, but I've never met him personally. But seeing him on TV and hearing him talk, he never came across as arrogant to me. But a lot of people do feel like he's arrogant. But if you remember when Barry Bonds first started playing with the Pittsburgh Pirates before going to San Francisco, he was a 30-30 guy. And that's just something you don't see anymore. But a lot of people think Barry Bonds was just a home run hitter, and that is certainly not true. You have almost 3,000 career hits. You're more than a home run hitter. He was an amazing, amazing baseball player. He was actually a really good outfielder, too, for about the first 10 years, and then his speed kind of slowed down. But when he first started in Pittsburgh, he hit 35 home runs a year and still 40 bases a year. He was a phenomenal, phenomenal baseball player. And number one on my list is a guy that, in my opinion, is the best hitter the game has ever seen. I could watch this guy swing a bat all day long because it was so pretty, and that was Ted Williams. His career batting average was .344, and he had 521 home runs and 2,654 hits. I know he didn't have 3,000 hits, but if you recall, I want to say it was 1944, 1945, and 1946. Babe Ruth was number 4, Randy, but I want to say it was 44, 45, and 46. Those 3 years, I believe it was those 3 years, I'll go back and look later, that Ted Williams didn't even play because he was in the military. So if he could have played those 3 years, he would have easily had 3,000 career hits and easily probably had about 560 or so career home runs. So that just tells you how good he was. He played about 15 years, left 3 years to go to the military, and then came back and played a few more years and retired. But Ted Williams was an amazing baseball player. Hey, Gabe, good to have you along, man. Go back and watch the whole video. We just did a recap of my opinion of the top 10 baseball players of all time. I decided to do it because I don't even know who it was. There was no face on it and no name on it. But I try my best to comment to everybody that leaves comments. And somebody just commented and said, hey, Brandon, why don't you do top 10 all-time baseball players? And I said, sounds good. And a few of the guys like Ted Williams and Barry Bonds and Hank Aaron, they come to mind immediately. I mean, any baseball fan that actually watches baseball and knows baseball and doesn't hate somebody because of off the field issues, but just follows their on the field stuff. Ted Williams and Barry Bonds and Hank Aaron and Babe Ruth and guys like that are going to be in your top 10. You know, the other guys can be, you know, kind of maybe talked about, left off, and you might leave one guy off for another guy. But Ted Williams and Barry Bonds and Hank Aaron and Babe Ruth are, and Willie Mays probably also are going to be in everybody's top 10 list. And a few guys that barely missed the list was Mickey Mantle and Roger Maris. Those guys were great, as well as Joe DiMaggio. Joe DiMaggio had that big 56-game hitting streak, which is still the longest ever single hitting streak in Major League Baseball history. But when you only have 10 guys, somebody has to get left off. So that's just a few of the guys that barely missed my top 10. And like I said, I've been asked to do a top 10 all-time babyface wrestler list and a top 10 all-time heel wrestler list. I'll get to those. I don't know which one I'll do first, but I won't do them the same night. I'll do top 10 babyface one week, and then I'll do top 10 heel one week. There's a few guys that automatically jump out at you. I won't say their name and give the list away, but there's a few guys that automatically jump out at you when you think about top 10 babyface or top 10 heel. But the rest of the guys are, like I said earlier, you can talk about and discuss amongst each other because one person might say this guy, one might say this guy, but there's a few guys that everybody's going to have on their list, just like anybody that watches baseball that has a top 10 all-time baseball player is going to have Ted Williams and Barry Bonds and Hank Aaron and Babe Ruth on their list. So we'll get to those. I'll try to do one next week and then one in 2 weeks unless I have other suggestions for top 10 because I'm always up for talking wrestling. So I can put those on the back burner for a later date. No big deal. But if nobody else comes along between now and next week and makes another suggestion, then I'll go ahead and get into those next week. Like I said, I didn't do them this week only because we had WrestleMania, and I talked about WrestleMania Monday and talked about WrestleMania Tuesday. And I know there are people on this channel that are not wrestling fans, which is fine. I want everybody to be on here, whether you like wrestling, baseball, basketball, football, whatever. So I didn't want the channel to be too loaded with wrestling this week. So that's why I decided to talk about Major League Baseball and give my opinion of the all-time top 10 baseball players. And I wanted to come on here live, like I said, because our internet service just has not been very good this week. And I didn't want to take a chance of having to do the video all over again and try to load it all over again. Hopefully our internet service will get better here in the next couple of days. But if you're a baseball fan or know someone who is, tell them to go back and first make sure they like and comment and share and subscribe. Hopefully Randy the Braves won tonight. When I came in here to do this video, it was 5-5, I believe, after 9 innings. So far this year, the Braves opened up by losing 4, and then they won 4, and now they've lost 3. So right now they're extremely wishy-washy. They're losing a few, winning a few. So hopefully they'll come back and win tonight and get back on the winning side. I know they put Max Fried and Christian Pache on the DL today. So now they're without Mike Soroka, and they're also without Max Fried. So 2 of their starting rotation members are currently on the DL. And Mike Soroka also suffered a setback last week in his rehab from his hurt hamstring. Now he also has a hurt shoulder. So I don't know when Mike Soroka will be back, but I'm going to say it's going to be at least June. That's just my opinion. I haven't heard anything, but my opinion is he'll be out till at least June. But thanks to everyone who chimed in and everyone who tuned in, always greatly appreciate it. And like I was saying, if you know anybody that likes baseball, feel free to make them like, comment, share, and subscribe, and give their thoughts and opinions on top 10 all-time baseball players. Don't give me your thoughts on what they did off the field. I just like to talk about what happens on the field, and I like to save the drama for all the other people that like to talk about off-the-field stuff. I like to talk about what's happened on the field or what I think is going to happen on the field and not somebody's personal business. I'll let the ones who like talking about that talk about their personal business. Before we leave tonight, I'll give you my dad joke of the day. Why do golfers take with them an extra pair of pants? It's in case they get a hole-in-one. All right, and that wraps it up for tonight's Ref Brandon and the Todd family YouTube video. Hope everybody has a great night. We'll see you next time. Until next time, it's Ref Brandon saying, just like in pro wrestling, life can be over by the count of 3. Tell your friends and family how much you love them. Bye.